My mom stole everything I worked for to save my brother, then asked me for more. I opened my bank app like I always do, expecting to transfer some money to cover my car insurance. But when the screen loaded, my stomach dropped. The account balance? Zero. Not just a couple $100 missing, not even a few thousand. My entire savings gone? At first, I thought I had made some mistake. Maybe I was looking at the wrong account? Maybe I transferred the money without realizing it? But as I scrolled through the transaction history, I saw it. One large withdrawal made just 2 days ago. And the name on it? Sarah. I froze. My heart sank. It wasn't just that the money was gone, it was who had taken it. My mom. The person I trusted the most. The one who had always been there for me. My first thought wasn't even anger. It was confusion. Why would she do this? I don't live with her. I've always had a decent relationship with her, or at least, that's what I thought. She knew how hard I had worked to save up for a house. I'd hit my goal of $20,000 just a few months ago, and now it was all gone like it had never existed. It was like a punch to the gut. I didn't waste any time. I called her immediately, my heart racing, my mind spinning with 1,000 questions. It rang twice before she picked up. Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but it cracked anyway. Did you take money out of my account? What's going on? There was a long pause on the other end, and then I heard her sigh, like I was the one inconveniencing her. Alex, I needed it to help your brother, she said, her voice casual, almost dismissive. Ethan's going through a rough patch with his credit card debt. I couldn't just sit there and do nothing. My blood ran cold. Wait, you took my savings to pay off Ethan's debt? Without asking me. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, but I was trying so hard to stay calm. She didn't seem to get why I was upset. You're being selfish for making this about the money, Alex. Family helps family. I could hear the defensiveness in her voice. It stung. This was the moment I realized this wasn't a mistake. She wasn't apologizing or acknowledging that she'd done something wrong. To her, it made sense. It was for Ethan, after all. Ethan, the golden child who never had to face any real consequences. Ethan, who had a track record of never holding down a job and always landing himself in trouble. I couldn't believe it. Mom, I've been saving for years. I worked hard for that money. You're young, she interrupted me, her voice softening like she was explaining something to a child. You'll earn it back, don't worry. I felt like I had been slapped. It wasn't about the money. It was about the trust. The years I spent sacrificing to build a future for myself just taken away in a heartbeat. And she had no idea what she had done. Or worse, she didn't care. I opened my mouth to argue, to tell her how wrong this was, but she cut me off again. Look, I didn't spend it on myself. I used it for something important. Ethan needed it, and he's your brother. You should be proud you helped him. The words hit me like a freight train. Proud? Proud of what? That she took everything I had worked for without asking? Proud of the fact that my savings had been spent to fix someone else's mess. I felt the weight of my frustration building up, but no matter how much I tried to explain, I couldn't make her see my side. All she kept saying was, it's for family. I was beyond livid, but what could I do? She wasn't hearing me. All I could do was hang up, my mind racing, my heart pounding. And still, all I could think was, how could she do this to me? The next few days were a blur of confusion and frustration. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. Something didn't sit right with me. I kept asking myself, why would she do this? It wasn't like her. Or, at least, that's what I used to believe. The more I thought about it, the more I began to feel like there was more to this than just one impulsive decision. I had to find out. I started digging. First, I checked my bank account again, combing through every transaction, hoping to find some clue as to why she did it. But that didn't give me any answers. So I moved on to my credit report. And that's when I saw it. There it was, buried under a pile of random details, a loan in my name. A loan I had never heard of. I stared at the screen, trying to process the information. The loan had been taken out last year, co-signed by my mother. And she never told me. Not once. Not even a hint. My breath caught in my throat. I couldn't believe it. My heart was pounding in my chest as I read the details. The loan had gone into default. Payments hadn't been made. And there it was, clear as day, my name on the dotted line. I felt like I was suffocating. I had no idea. How could she do this to me? How could she use my name, my credit, without even telling me? I had spent my entire life being careful with my finances, building my credit, doing everything right. And now it was ruined. I needed answers. I called her again. The anger was boiling in me now. The frustration that had been building up for days exploded the moment she picked up the phone. Mom, I snapped, what the hell is going on? There's a loan in my name. You co-signed it for Ethan, didn't you? There was a long pause. A silence so thick it felt like the phone was about to crack in half. I could practically hear her trying to find the right words to spin her way out of this. She started, but I cut her off. How could you do this to me? I demanded, my voice shaking with fury. Why didn't you tell me about it? Why didn't you ask? This isn't just about taking my savings. This is my credit, my future. She sighed, a sound so casual like it was no big deal. I didn't think it was necessary to mention. Ethan needed it, Alex. He was struggling and I couldn't let him drown. You know how he is. I thought you'd understand. Understand? Understand. I repeated, my voice rising with disbelief. I worked my whole life to build up my credit and you just used it without even asking? Without telling me. She sounded almost annoyed now, like I was the one being unreasonable. This wasn't the first time, Alex. I've done this for you before. I've always helped you out. It's no different than taking the money for Ethan. It's family. Family. Again. That word. Like it was supposed to excuse everything. Like it was a free pass to do whatever she wanted with my life. You've been using me for years, haven't you? I whispered, the weight of it hitting me hard. All this time. I've been your backup plan. Your safety net. Her silence was deafening. How could you do this to me? I repeated, this time quieter, almost broken. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence said everything. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to all of this, something deeper. I needed to know what was really going on. After that conversation with my mom, I felt more trapped than ever, but also determined to uncover the truth. I spent hours digging through old receipts, emails, and even Facebook posts. Anything that might give me a clearer picture of what was really happening behind the scenes. It wasn't long before I stumbled across a thread that sent a chill down my spine. One of my aunts had mentioned something casually at a family gathering a few months ago. She joked about how my mom had been unlucky at the casino lately. At the time, I hadn't thought much of it. My mom had always been a bit of a gambler, nothing serious, or so I thought. But now, with everything else coming to light, I couldn't ignore it. I went back through my mom's social media posts. It was hard to believe what I was seeing. Photo after photo, she was at the casino, smiling in front of slot machines, flashing signs of big wins, and looking carefree. But the dates, they lined up with the timing of the loan. It all clicked into place. My stomach dropped. She had been going to the casino every weekend, feeding this addiction, using the money from my savings and the loan to keep the cycle going. I felt sick. I couldn't breathe. The money wasn't just gone, it wasn't even going towards saving Ethan. It was going into her addiction. Every dollar she took from me, every dollar she borrowed, was fueling a habit that was spiraling out of control. I dialed her number again. This time, my hands were shaking, but I knew I couldn't let this go any longer. Mom, I said, my voice tight with anger. I saw the photos. I know about the casino. I know you've been gambling. There was a long pause on the other end. I could hear her breathing, but she didn't speak. Then she let out a laugh, one that sounded hollow, like she knew the jig was up. You don't understand, she finally said, her voice shaky. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought I could win it all back. Win it all back? The words hung in the air, and I felt my heart sink. You've been using my money. My life savings. The loan in my name, all of it to feed your gambling habit. Her silence was all I needed to hear. I had already pieced it together. She had been lying to everyone, telling Ethan she was helping him, telling me she was doing this for the family. But the truth? It was all a facade. She wasn't helping anyone. She was feeding her addiction. You've lied to everyone, Mom, I said, the words leaving my mouth like they were poison. You used me, you used Ethan, and all this time you've been lying to our faces. Her voice broke, but not in the way I expected. I didn't know what else to do, she said, her words laced with desperation. I'm in way over my head, Alex. I didn't want anyone to know. I thought I could fix it myself. Fix it? How could she fix this? How could she fix the mess she had created, the damage she had done to me, to our family? Mom, this isn't something you can fix. Not on your own. And definitely not by taking my money. But it was too late. The reality of the situation crashed down on me all at once. This wasn't just about my savings being stolen. This wasn't just about my credit being ruined. This was about an addiction, about lies and deceit and manipulation. She wasn't just using me for money, she was using me to keep her own secret buried, to hide the truth of her addiction from everyone who cared about her. I wanted to scream, to tell her how much I hated what she had done. But I couldn't even find the words. All I could do was sit there in silence, listening to her cry on the other end of the line. But I couldn't comfort her. I couldn't pretend everything was going to be okay anymore. Not after all the lies. Not after all the damage she'd done. I had never felt more alone in my entire life. I couldn't live in this nightmare any longer. I had to put an end to it. The lies, the manipulation, the constant betrayal, it had all reached a breaking point. I couldn't keep pretending that this was just a family issue. No. This was my life, my future, and I wasn't going to let her ruin it any longer. I drove to her house the next day, my fists clenched, my mind made up. I knew what I had to do, but my heart was still heavy with the pain of what I was about to face. When I walked through the door, Sarah was sitting on the couch, her eyes red from crying earlier. But this time I didn't care about her tears. I was done being manipulated. "Mom," I said, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and resolve. "You've done enough. I'm done being your backup plan. I've been your safety net for years and I'm not doing it anymore. I want my money back. Every single penny you took from me." She looked at me with that familiar look of guilt, but it wasn't enough. "Not this time. Alex, please," she said, her voice softer than usual. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You're my son. You have to understand." "No," I cut her off, my voice firm, almost cold. "I don't have to understand. You took my savings, you ruined my credit, and all you've done is lie to me. You put me in debt, you've stolen from me, and now you want me to just let it go? No. I want every cent back, or I will take legal action." She scoffed, rolling her eyes like I was overreacting. "Legal action? Over money? Alex, you're going to ruin me. You'll destroy our family. You're being ridiculous." Her words felt like a slap across the face. It wasn't the first time she tried to guilt-trip me, but this one hit harder than the rest. She always had a way of turning things around, making it seem like I was the one in the wrong for wanting justice. "You're going to ruin me," she repeated, her voice growing more desperate. "How could you do this to your own mother? You don't understand." I didn't have a choice. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure, but the hurt was suffocating. "You had plenty of choices. You chose to lie, to steal, to ruin everything I've worked for. And now you want to turn this around on me." I paused, my voice growing steady. "You'll regret this. I'm done. I'm done being your fallback. I'm protecting myself, even if it means losing you." Her face twisted in a mixture of anger and hurt. "You're going to regret this, Alex. One day you'll need me and I won't be there for you." She said it like a threat, like she was trying to make me feel guilty for finally standing up for myself. But it didn't work anymore. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I turned and walked out of the room, the decision weighing heavy on my heart. But it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting my future, my credit, my life. I couldn't let her keep doing this. Later that night, I made the call. I filed a police report. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Even as I explained everything to the officer, part of me was second-guessing myself. Was this really the right choice? But then I remembered everything, my stolen savings, my ruined credit, my shattered trust, and I knew I had no choice. The legal process began soon after. It wasn't going to be easy, but I had made my decision. I couldn't keep living in this mess. And no matter how hard she tried to manipulate me, I couldn't let her destroy me anymore. I had no idea how this was going to unfold, but one thing was certain, I was finally taking control. And that felt like the first step toward healing, even if the pain was still there. Even if the family would never be the same. The weeks that followed were a blur of paperwork, phone calls, and appointments with the lawyer. It was exhausting, both emotionally and physically, but it was also the first time in months that I felt like I was doing something right. I was no longer drowning in the aftermath of my mother's betrayal. I was fighting back. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The damage to my credit was deep and it would take time to rebuild. But I also knew something else. I couldn't keep holding on to the past. I couldn't keep letting Sarah's mistakes control my life. The legal process was slow, frustratingly so. But with every step, I felt a little bit more like myself again. I worked with my lawyer to clear my name from the fraudulent loan, and even though it wasn't an immediate fix, I could finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. My credit would rebuild. My savings, whatever was left, would come back. But most importantly, I would come back. What hurt the most was the fallout from the rest of my family. Some of them sided with Sarah, unable or unwilling to see the truth of what had happened. They called me, told me I was being too harsh, that I should forgive her. "She's your mother," they said. "You only get one mother. Only one mother." I repeated those words to myself over and over, but I couldn't let them trap me. Yes, she was my mother. But she had crossed a line. She had betrayed me in the worst way possible. And now she wasn't just a mother. She was someone who had hurt me beyond repair. For the first time, I realized that cutting her out was the only way forward. I had spent so many years trying to fix things, trying to make her proud, trying to be the perfect son. But what I was really doing was sacrificing my own happiness, my own peace of mind, for someone who had never seen me for who I truly was. So I did it. I went no contact with Sarah. The decision didn't come easily and the guilt weighed on me like a heavy stone. Was I doing the right thing? I asked myself over and over. But deep down, I knew it was the only choice I had. For my own well-being. For my future. I couldn't keep trying to save a relationship that was already broken beyond repair. And as the days passed, something started to shift inside me. The weight I had been carrying, the constant worry about her actions, the guilt of wanting to break free, it all started to lift. For the first time in my life, I felt like I finally had control over my own destiny. My life was mine to rebuild. I'm better off without her, I whispered to myself one night, sitting alone in my apartment. The words didn't sound as cold as I thought they would. They didn't feel like an act of abandonment. They felt like a declaration of freedom. I had given so much of myself to Sarah, to this toxic relationship, and in the end, I had nothing left to give. I needed to put myself first. I had to. And so, I began to rebuild. It wasn't easy. There were moments when I questioned myself, moments when I wondered if I was making a mistake. But slowly, bit by bit, my life started to come back together. I focused on my career, my friends, the things that mattered. I started to trust myself again. I started to believe that I was worth more than the pain I had been living with. And every day I took one more step toward healing. I no longer felt like I was waiting for something to change. I was the one changing. In the end, I realized that the hardest part wasn't about rebuilding my credit or my savings. It was about rebuilding me. And for the first time in a long time, I was proud of who I was becoming. It was time to let go of the past. It was time to stop living in the shadow of someone else's mistakes. And it was time to take control of my own life. I finally have control of my life, I whispered again, this time with conviction. And as I looked ahead, I knew I was stronger than I had ever been. The past no longer had the power to define me. It was my future that I was shaping now. And I wasn't going to let anyone steal that from me ever again.